Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean. If you're new here, I have been converting Sprinter vans since 2017. Occasionally, I get to work with a really cool, unique project like this 2006 Northern Lite. We're going to give it a big lithium battery bank. And to do that, we're going to use the Pecron E3600LFP. And we're also going to put a bunch of solar on the roof. We're going to aim for 600 watts of solar, which is almost the max we could fit on this roof. There's some timestamps below if you want to just skip ahead to the install. First, let's talk about why I decided to go with a power station instead of a more traditional power setup. In a traditional setup, you would have different like solar controllers, inverters, converters, batteries, and you're going to have to run cables to all of them and make sure that they all can communicate nicely with each other and all the wires are gauged correctly, and you're going to spend a lot of time crimping wires. It takes a lot of research and planning. With this, you get all of that in one system. This is not going to be a full in-depth review of the power station. This is mainly going to focus on what you want to look for when you're choosing a power station that powers your camper. What you're looking for are a few different things. One is this has a 12 volt, 30 amp out port. You can plug this into a DC fuse panel that connects all of your DC appliances. So your lights, your fridge, your heating system, your fans, everything that runs off of DC power can go there. It also has a couple, or actually a few different DC inputs. So what you have here are two high wattage sources to charge this, which is great. So you can be getting a ton of power off your alternator and a ton of power off your solar. And then you could even, if you needed to, you could run like an extra solar panel off of this little guy right here, but that maxes out at 150 watts. Of course, you can also do the shore power plug. So this one does up to 30 amp max input so it's 30 amp AC. So that's like, what, 3,600 watts, I think, somewhere around there, which means you could plug into a campsite power source and charge it up super fast. So those are some of the main things that sets this power station apart from other ones. Also have these other plugs. So you got 100 watts here, so you could charge your laptop or something that takes a higher input there. 18 watts, great for your phone. And then a bunch of little USB type A 18 watt plug. Of course, here we've got the regular outlets. One more thing. This video could really stop here because it's got an RV plug. So you could, instead of doing what you're going to see me do in the rest of this video and really integrate this into your camper's electrical system, what you could just do is take your camper plug that you probably have now and plug it straight into here and use this kind of like a generator. The reason why I wouldn't just plug in your RV's power cord here and use it like a generator is because you're essentially taking DC power, switching it over to AC, and then your camper is going to take that AC power, and with the converter, it's going to switch it back to DC. So anytime you switch from DC to AC back to DC, you're going to end up having some power loss. So it's just a really inefficient way to use your power. Another great thing about this power station is this one has about 3,000 watt hours of storage, but it can be expanded to, I think, like 15,000 watt hours. It's also very small and compact, so finding a place to fit it is relatively easy. And finally, this thing has the ability to connect to an app over Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so you can monitor everything remotely. Let's say you had it in your truck camper and you were up front in the cab and you wanted to see the state of your charge back there, you could just pull up the app. Some things to consider when placing your power station is being able to read the screen. You might want it somewhere so it's easy to see the screen so you know how much power you have left and how much power you're using. You also might want to be running USB-A and USB-C cords to the power station, so maybe a good central spot for that. Of course, keeping it in a decently ventilated area because the power station can get hot and it's got fans that blow off any excess heat. So you want to make sure that if it's in a cupboard or a closet, that cupboard or closet has vents either to the outside or to the main living space. So I'm going to go ahead and take some measurements of the power station and figure out where the best place is going to be to keep it. And I'm also going to get rid of the old power converter box. The overall width looks like is just over about 17.25 inches, 12 inches deep, 13.5 inches tall. So there's lots of room under this bench seat. That's probably where I'm going to be putting the power station. You could also potentially put it in a cupboard. This area is probably big enough if I wanted it there instead, and I could even remove the doors and put like a new face in front of it that has an opening for the touchscreen. There's space up here as well as over here. So I really do have a lot of options, and your camper might be different, but all you really need to make sure is that you're able to run your DC power line to where all the old DC wires terminated. So the easiest solution is just to try to get my power station as close to this old power converter as possible. So we're going to take a look under here and just see how much space we're working with. Okay, so we're working with quite a bit of space here. We've got about 16.75 inches, roughly 14. We'd probably even go wider there, almost to 17. So next step is to remove this guy. It should go without saying, do this at your own risk. Obviously, anytime you're working with electricity, you want to be super careful. I don't have batteries or power hooked up. I'm not connected to my truck, so the system's completely dead right now. So I am tackling the wires without really any fear of injury, but be sure to take the necessary precautions yourself. So I really do have plenty of space. I can have the power station face out towards the middle of the camper or towards the back of the camper. So I'm going to take a picture of this setup here so I know what's what when I go to rewire it. So we're going to take all these DC positive lines and run them to this little DC panel. And then that will live back probably in this corner right here. It's my favorite tool for stripping these small wires. I'm just going through and using the heat gun on all of these heat shrinks. Helps keep them from corroding and keeps it watertight. We're going to take these 4 AC wires and add plugs to the end of them. And then those will plug into here because they have a nicer profile, which will then plug into the Pecron. All right, so we've got everything going where it should. We've got white to neutral, black to gold, ground to green. I'm gonna just tighten this guy up. So this will plug in here. Let your return will plug in really clean to our power station. We got here the 30 amp plug. This camper originally had a 30 amp plug that went to the power converter. So we're gonna put female end on this guy right here. It's the ground, so we're gonna use this. And then with our power station, we've got a 30 amp plug that'll plug right into here. We can use the original extension cord, plug in at campsites if you're ever in one. Here's the XT60 out cable that will run from the power station. I've put 2 ring terminals on the end, and it already has an inline fuse, so I don't need to actually put an extra fuse in there. So we're just going to attach it here, and then technically we could power everything from the power station. Just plug this in, attached to our fuse panel there. We're going to turn on the power station for DC out. All right, and as you see, the lights came on because I had them all switched on already. Let's see about the fan. Fan's working. Fridge is on. Set to DC. Light comes on. So I've replaced all the bulbs that were in here with LED bulbs. It's a nice warm white too, so it's not as gross as the lighting that was in here before. But it also means it'll use a lot less power. Oh. So as you can see, it will take up a lot of space, but it should just fit. So if it's facing out this way, then you can sit down here, kind of look at the screen because it is a little lower, so it's inconvenient to see when you're standing up. But if you're sitting down, you can look, you can mess around with the settings. Got a nice place on the step there. Plus, there's already a big hole from that power converter. Just kind of give you a closer look of where things are. And looks like we'll have space behind it to reach down to adjust those water shutoff valves if we ever need to. Of course, we got to make sure there's enough room on the side for the shore power plug to be plugged in, and then enough room in front of it for all the plugs to hang off. And now we're going to do some demolition to this area so that everything fits. So now, since we got opened up, we'll probably remove this because it'll give us a little more space. And then we've got to build a platform along here. We need to make this platform removable in case we have to access it. Now, obviously, this will allow a lot of ventilation in this side, but I want something, there's a fan on this side I want to be open. Here's a vent that I printed on my 3D printer. It's going to go right about here. We're going to just try to get it to the side of this. This area is starting to look how I like it. This is a piece of rich light, which is really dense material. It's recycled paper and resin, so super strong for being 1/4 inch thick. But this is kind of ugly, and then we've got these holes here. So to kind of make this area a little prettier, we're gonna put this angled adhesive strip, kind of like molding around the outside. And then since we'll be charging phones off of these ports or whatever, you know, small appliances, we're gonna make a little pocket here with this mesh that you could you know, stick your phone or iPad in just to kind of hold it in place. All right, plug this guy in. So we are going to zip tie it so that these don't come apart. All right, we're gonna see how this works. This is the AC charging port. There we go, that click means it's locked. As you see here, all of these AC out cables, I just push them out of the way, as well as my DC cable. I'm gonna shift it out of the way. Now, I've got 5 cables in 4 spots. But for now, we're gonna leave the AC unplugged, plug everything else in, and then label, figure out what's what. Gone through and labeled all these plugs. We got dinette, kitchen, fridge, and microwave. In the summer, if you decide you want to use the AC, you can swap it out, plug it in. All right, overall it looks pretty clean, I'd say. The plan to hold the station in place, not have it slide around, is putting pieces of wood. Here's the cover with the outline to keep the power station in place. Kind of line it up. And now it can't move. For solar, what we're doing is we're gonna have it come through the roof in this closet, then work its way down the corner of the closet, and then we're gonna go through the wall here, and behind the seat cushion we'll fasten it to the wall and then go into the seat and then come out to this corner where it plugs in. Choosing solar panels was a little difficult with this camper because it has an uneven roof line that is higher in the middle than the edges, and the edges are very narrow, making it hard to find a good solar panel that fits. I went with the Mega 100 Slim solar panel from Rich Solar because it would fit on those skinny edges of the camper. And then for the middle section between the skylight and the AC, I just went with the regular Mega 100 panel from Rich Solar. I chose these panels because they were all similar voltages, and it's important to get the voltage as close as possible when combining mismatched solar panels. I'll explain how they're all wired up once we get them mounted. All right, so we gotta do our solar pass-through. Right below this peak is the closet, so we gotta be just a little bit on the side of it. And you can kind of see right here, and that's where it's coming out, so perfect. All right, with this solar entry gland, first we want to make sure these are nice and tight. I've got the waterproofing ring there, and then I'm just taking VHB tape and going around. Make sure you clean up the surface with alcohol first. And we'll stick this to the cleaned surface of the roof. Obviously make sure you've passed the cables through first. Then you can go ahead and put some lap sealant. Keep any moisture from going through. The solar wires are then routed down through the camper to the power station where they can connect with the provided MC4 adapter. So we're gonna use some butyl tape. This will sit on the butyl tape, then we'll put the screw through and we'll cover it all up with lap sealant. That should keep anything from going through. Gonna just do that to hold it in place. After screwing everything in, I use some self-leveling lap sealant to go around the base of the feet. And on the end of the tube, I added this rubber hose so that I could kind of sneak in behind underneath the solar panel and really try to surround the whole base, because I don't want any water getting to where those screws penetrated the top of the camper. These solar panels use MC4 connectors. This is a female MC4 connector, and this is a male MC4 connector. On this one, we are adding a male connector to where the solar wires are going into the entry gland. And first you want to put your base cap on, then your strain relief and compression sleeve. And then you want to strip away about 1/4 inch or so of the wire. Since this is double shaped, it's a little bit difficult. Let's get that off. Then you're gonna want to take your female pin. In this case, the female pin goes with the male connector, and you just want to fold those wings over and then give it a good crimp. You always want to have super strong crimps, otherwise you have the potential for the wires getting caught and melting things. So give it a little tug after I'm done crimping it. Make sure it's on there solid. Then we're gonna slide on the male connector part and slide everything together, make sure it's lining up good, and you take that base cap and tighten it up. You can usually do this by hand, but if you're having a hard time getting it fully tight, there is a little plastic tool that usually comes with the connectors. You can use the blue one here to get it fully tightened. All right, we've picked a nice sunny day to finally get all the panels hooked up. Got my branch connectors here. So as you recall, the power station needs an input voltage of at least 32 volts, and these solar panels each are roughly 18 volts. To get the voltage high enough, we're going to divide the panels into 3 sets that are wired in series. Wiring in series increases the voltage without increasing the current. Then we're going to take those 3 series wired sets and we're going to wire them in parallel, which increases the current without increasing the voltage. In optimal conditions, the array should give us 36.2 volts at 16.42 amps, which gives us a total of about 594 watts. Wiring each set in series is pretty easy. You just take the negative lead from one of the panels in the set and attach it to the positive lead of the other panel in the set. Then to take all those sets and wire them in parallel, you're going to take your leftover negative leads and plug them all into a branch connector. And then you're going to take all your leftover positive leads and plug them into a different branch connector. I used 10 amp inline fuses on each of those positive lines before plugging them into the branch connector. Then I took both branch connectors and I plugged them into the lines going into the camper, which goes into the power station. After this, it's just a matter of cleaning up all your lines, making sure things look good, and you're done. Looks like I'm getting about 36.2 volts at 9.5 amps and 343 watts. This makes sense because the panels could be oriented a little bit better to get more from the sun, but this is pretty good. Well, I think that's the longest video I've ever made on this channel, so thanks for sticking around. We're currently inside of a 98 Bigfoot camper that I've been working on for the past several months, doing a ton of renovations. So if you'd like to see those videos, they'll be coming out hopefully soon. Be sure to subscribe so you know when they do. And then I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a comment so we can continue the camper conversation. Thanks.